Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we are here for the regular Saturday live stream. Oh, I see Neff is already here in the chat typing before I even go live. So yes, I did have a live stream last night. We will talk a little bit about that. Actually, we'll probably open with that in terms of getting caught up with what's going on in terms of my housekeeping items, and then we will jump into today. So I'll try and get centered. I have two monitors, so I can't balance the webcam exactly in the middle, or else it wobbles. So anyway, first world problems. So it has been a busy week. Obviously, Watches and Wonders launched on Tuesday officially. It's still going on. I think they're actually at the point now, either today or tomorrow, I believe they are at the point where they will be publicly accessible and not just the media. But everything announces on day one. So it's kind of like I've compared it to how video games used to have E3, and we'd have our big E3 day and all the excitement happens. So this is the big exciting day for us in watches, and it's been quite a bit. I still have not looked over every single watch. There are 54 brands that are participating in Watches and Wonders, and many of them have actually got more than one new novelty for 2024. So in terms of housekeeping, I will say good morning, Kevin. Welcome to the live stream. Let me go ahead and share the screen so you can see. It's just easier. I do have links to all of these in the video description. There are a lot of links in this video description. So I have put out 8 videos. At this point, I think a lot of the people that are there are getting their stuff out with more hands-on stuff, because I'm working with whatever the press release stuff is in terms of renders. Sometimes they have video, and I try and roll what I can get in. But so I've got videos on 8 of these, and we can talk about these today if you want. But my plan for today's live stream, we're going to do 2 things. One, I want to go over the Rolex discontinuations, because I haven't focused on that, but I do think it's of interest to a lot of people. And I don't think that'll take very long. And then we will jump into going over, you already see the tabs across the top there if you squint really hard. We'll go into some of the watches that we did not talk about on last night's live stream panel, and I haven't done a standalone video on. But in terms of the standalone videos, I have one on the new Grand Seiko with the hand wind movement, the SLGW003, the new white birch. I have the Chopard LUC XPS, the sector green dial 1 in forest green. Got that out. Did a video on the IWC Portugueser Eternal calendar. That's the one with a secular calendar function, which I don't even think 6 watch movements, mechanical movements, are capable of that. So that's quite an interesting piece. JLC Duomet, they brought the Duomet back as well, I think they've been running them for a while, but it's a chronograph and moon phase combined, which I think is a first for them. Talked about the Rolex 1908 in platinum. They rolled out the 1908 last year. I wasn't particularly impressed. The platinum one is a better effort, a little paint by number, but better. Patek has several watches. I only talked about one, though. Their World Time with the local date option, which I believe is basically a more complicated version of their Calatrava sort of racing-inspired carbon print. I like this one better than the baseline Calatravas that they've done with the new, more hip, modern, young look. Did a video on the Rolex GMT, the one with the black and the gray bezel, which is my favorite Rolex release that they've done for 2024. And I did, it's YouTube. You got to do a tutor. I didn't do the monochrome, though. I did the GMT with the Coke bezel and gilt numbering. So anyway, so all of those, as you can see, are out there, out and about, and ready to go. In addition to that, we go over the live tab. You might have seen the reference to it from Neff in the chat last night. I did and there's a link in the video description, so you don't have to do all this navigation. But this one that says Discussion Watches and Wonders 2024. So what we did is I brought on a panel. It was less than a week's planning, and so it was like I wasn't sure who was going to be able to make it or not. We actually ended up with 5 people pretty early on in the process. So a couple of YouTubers were on. Patrick from Pocket Watch Time joined for the whole thing, and then Carl from My Watch Journey. He's an economist who talks a lot about watches. He also is the first time I've had him on a live stream. So they were both on. You can check out their channels. The links to their channels are in that video description. Ken, who's been on several of my live streams before, who's a big Rolex fan, he came on. And then Tony, who I co-host a pinball podcast with, he also joined in. And so the way that one works is we covered, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I think we covered something like 9 watches in 90 minutes. And I didn't pick any though. Once I realized how long we were spending discussing the watches, and I didn't want to make that feel overly rushed, I decided I would just give my opinion on the watches they were picking, and they were the guests. I would let them go and pick. So today I have my own slate of watches that I want to talk about. I think I've got 6 brands for us. But I also couldn't interact with chat very much because there was a lot of, there was a large panel. So here, of course, if there are suggestions on what you guys want to talk about, we will focus on that today. So that is what we'll get into after we do the Rolex things. But one last housekeeping item. So longtime watchers of the channel are probably quite familiar with, ever since last, I don't know, I can't even say longtime watchers because it really started last year. Audemars Piguet, right? There was the Alex 1159, a watch that I've made tremendous fun of in terms of the ad campaign that they did to promote the watch. I'm actually trying to load it up right now so we can take a quick look. For those of you that don't remember, how can we me and Pepperidge Farm, we remember. So these horrible watches, and this is my favorite photo ever used to promote a watch, because there's this dead girl in the lawn chair. And so they had some other ones. They had another really good one where they hung the watch on a keychain, which again, these are really expensive watches. I think what was the cheapest one? 75,000 Swiss francs. It was just up to me an appalling thing. So I reached out to my sister, who designed these dead girl lawn chair image that is now available in a shirt. So I turned back on the spread shop thing on YouTube. I have a link directly to the store, but I was like, I will pay you. I contacted my sister. I was like, I will put. She designed my the Eclectic Gamers podcast logo that we use, and I said, I will pay you to make me a dead girl on a lawn chair shirt. And she was like, I don't understand what you mean. I'm like, no. And so I gave her the images. So here's a little bit better view of it. But actually, I went ahead and ordered them. So I've got one on now. So she just kind of put the phrasing watches with, I guess I could just make me big so you could see it a little easier. Like that. We've got a vaguely, maybe something inspired by an actual watch brand. She incorporated the logo. So anyway, there are, and the reason why there's so many different things in the shop are because the different colors were available and different sizes are available depending on the shirt, the baseline shirt. So there are a few women's ones because she wanted one, and some other women wanted one. So she didn't spend money. She wanted me to pay her in shirts. So got her those shirts. But there are a variety. Like if you're interested in, I tried to turn off any colorway that I also have. I've had these forever. These ones with the regular just logo. That I don't even own one of those though. But the so like, you know, if you like Champion, there are a few with Champion. I tried to turn off any color that didn't work with the logo, like it washed it out. So anyway, you know, there's tri-blend, there's the cotton only, cheaper ones, there's, you know, 50-50, whatever. So anyway, those are there. If you are at all interested, if not, do not feel bad. It was just as one of those dumb things that just was like, you know what? I want to take this to the next level. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're popular or not. We're going to take it to the next level because the dead girl with a lawn chair deserves it. She deserves this. So anyway. So that's what it's been. A busy week of stuff, and I very much appreciate getting that weird logo. And eventually, there may be other stupid things that can become really stupid shirts, but it is what it is. So let me go ahead and get caught up with chat, and then we will actually jump into the real topic. So yes, 8 videos. It was the worst day. Was the first day of Watches and Wonders because it was Tuesday. I should have taken Tuesday off. I had Monday off, but for reasons unrelated to watches. And I was so tired though. I probably should have had Tuesday off anyway, but I actually got up before 5 a.m. and I worked on 3 of the videos. I could only get 2 ready in time. And then I did the third one in the evening. And then I started doing 2 up until I think Friday, and then I did one. And now I'm at the point where I think there's probably plenty of content out there for you guys. I might still put out a few first thoughts ones on them over time. That's not unusual. But, you know, the view counts fall pretty quickly. So people were more interested, I think, in, well, there are only certain brands lots of people are interested in. But eventually you find people that can actually have deals with these folks and can get hands-on time with the watches, and then you get more interesting content, in my opinion. But we all have our own taste. So, Koji, welcome to the live stream. And also, Tuna, thank you for being here and supporting the channel as being 99 Cent Club members. The laughter for Dead Girl. Yes, Dead Girl in the lawn chair. I think I just named the watch line lawn chair watch because I wasn't sure if there would be any issues with Spreadshop in the search if I called it Dead Girl in any way. But I think we can all tell she's very dead and very much in a lawn chair. So, and no one could truly forget. Well, thank you, Koji. I will be amazed if I move 5 of these shirts, but they are in there and there are like 10 different options for them. So yes, for the what 1 to the minus 10th power people that will understand what this is, it will be fire. What version, Neff asks, what version of the shirt did I get and what would I recommend? Well, okay, that completely depends on you all. So like what you guys like. What I got was, I believe, the cheapest one. So the $22.99 one. I had it set, it auto sets the pricing on them, but it has the most color choices. And I think what I did is, no, I didn't get the royal blue. I'm more boring than that. I got the denim. So I think this is what I got. I'd have to, yeah, I'm pretty sure. The color, obviously on the screen, it looks different, or at least on my screen, it looks different than this shirt, but I think I got the denim. So I usually I'm fine with 100% cotton shirts, which is what this is. So that's why I went ahead and got that. But I know other people, like another podcast I do, the Pinball Show podcast, that host, he hates 100% cotton. He's a big tri-blend fan. So like I might tell you what brand it is, but like there's a premium material shirt, which is also cotton, which is probably more comfortable than this, but it was $4 more. So I didn't get that. And if you like the heathering and stuff with the blends, like this is a tri-blend, but again, it's based off of whatever the baseline shirt price is that they end up making adjustments. So I like to go with cheap t-shirts because they usually hold up just fine. But some of the way the colors work is based off of the baseline shirt. So like that's why like Champion only had a few colors that really worked, but also Champion can go up to 3XL if you like large shirts. So there's or if you really like the brand Champion. I mean, I guess it's sort of a thing. I remember that was a Kmart brand back in the day. But anyway, so I got whatever the cheapest men's one is what I got. But I ordered a few others for other people that were higher quality. But for me, look, you guys know me. I'm pretty cheap. So that's how it goes. So Neff says he's going to get a purple one. That's very kind of you. Tuna says the black. I will say the Champion, my sister won it and my brother-in-law wanted the Champion, or they had I got them the Champion. Let me say it that way. I got them the Champions in, here's black, very black, and navy. The navy is extremely dark. So when I got him, I checked the label because at first I thought, is this black? I wasn't looking at it in a bright room, but so the navy is very, very deep. So that if you like really dark coloring, that the Champion one might be good, but you might want to explore some other ones because I think Champion is like the most expensive one because they're like $32.50 or whatever. Anyway, it's just one of those things. And Koji says, I want the gray sunburst one with a Valju logo on the back. I'll have to make new commissioning arrangements with my sister. We'll see how these do. But anyway, that's why you start seeing the shirts in I think I just have 3 links. I think I've toned it down. But I turned on the store back on YouTube. So now that I had something better than just the regular logo. So anyway, you can also click there, but there is a link to the shop in this video's video description for those of you that are interested. I actually am a big fan of the heathered look on shirts. So sometimes I end up getting tri-blends just because I like that look, like with, my favorite color, gray, and things like that. Okay, enough about plugging stuff about this channel. Let's get to the meat of what this is. You saw a big thumbnail when you guys were coming in, and it said discontinued. right? Okay, well, we got to talk about discontinue. Well, we don't have to. We can do whatever we want. But link to this article is in the video description. But of course, with Watches and Wonders, we mostly are talking about all the wonders that have come out in all the announcements out of Geneva this week. However, there was also, as is often the case, Rolex decides to use this opportunity to discontinue watches from their collection. And there was quite a bit of discontinuation. Now, first, I'm going to zoom back out of this because I'm going to talk to y'all directly. Can I have at least a quasi pat on the back for successfully calling it? They did not discontinue the Pepsi bezel GMT Master 2. That was I'm going to like quintuple down on it. That was the dumbest rumor that got stirred up over what was going on in the gray market I think I have seen in the last 5 years in watches. If you don't remember the argument, it was less Pepsis were showing up in the gray market. Therefore, the reason behind it is deduced to be Rolex is struggling to make the blue and red. And I even think I heard it as specifically as they couldn't get the red ceramic part of the bezel insert right, like the color wasn't right. Thus, they were going to discontinue the Pepsi because it was too hard to make. Like on paper, all of these little conspiracy theory things make sense. In reality, do you all really think that with all these brands successfully making ceramic inserts with red and blue, maybe together, maybe not, that they honestly, Rolex, the most vertically integrated watch manufacturer in the world, that they honestly can't figure out how to make ceramic, something they had done for years in Pepsi, that all of a sudden, like this became Greek fire and they lost the secret to it. That it was dumb. It was a really dumb argument. And it was driven by that. I mean, I'm not denying that less of them were showing up on the gray market, but that could be for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the amount of money you could get from a gray market dealer flipping one to them dropped quite a bit over the last 18 months. So in that regard, that's why I felt very strong that I was going to be right in saying that Rolex was not going to discontinue the Pepsi. It's super popular. It's the most popular iteration. I think for a lot of people, they like the look of it better than the Coke bezel from the old days. So they did continue it. Now, everything else I predicted was wrong. I predicted a titanium deep sea. They did a yellow gold. I predicted that the Coke bezel would come back. It did not. Tudor did one, but it did not come back with Rolex. They did a black gray instead. Okay, so what about all the stuff I didn't even think about discussing? So the Le Mans, the super sexy Daytona that everyone in the world loved. Yeah, this is already discontinued. So it was basically available for 10 months. When Ken was on yesterday on the panel, with link in the video description to that, if you want to check it out, it's a 90-minute live stream. He mentioned that he knew some people that some YouTube people that had successfully gotten a hold of this watch. Because I didn't know anyone that was able to get this. I don't know everyone though. So I mean, there's been a lack of seeing them come up being flipped. There are a couple of Chrono 24 people I heard someone checked a week ago and saw them at very, very high prices. So it was such an interesting watch because Rolex generally doesn't look backwards. They always like to look forwards. And that's probably why, honestly, it was me being dumb, predicting that they were going to bring back the Coke bezel. Because why would Rolex go back? They hardly ever go back in time. This was an instance where they kind of went back in time. But clearly they didn't want to go back in time for very long. So that's gone. Everyone wanted it, but it's gone. So that's discontinued. I don't know if it's one of you who's currently in the live stream, maybe someone who's watching the recording, but I know I've had viewers, at least one, repeatedly tell me they love this palm dial date just. It's gone now too. So I hope you got it. Otherwise, I guess you're going to have to buy it used at this point because they were tough to get for a while, but they discontinued the palm. They also discontinued some watch with a fluted dial, I think is what was mentioned here. I don't remember if it was in, it was the palm one with either the fluted or the smooth bezel. So that was the date just 36. So that's out of the collection again. And that one never really, I like the colorway, but the palm motif never worked for me. I don't hate it, but I didn't want to own it myself. And the entire Yachtmaster 2 collection, which is one of Rolex's ugliest watches. I think everyone can agree. No, we couldn't all agree, but apparently we all agreed enough that we were going to get rid of it. I like the Yachtmaster quite a bit. I mean, it's like it's kind of like an ultra luxe, snazzy version of a Submariner. So why wouldn't anyone really? I kind of like the bezel textures they do on some of them. But the Yachtmaster 2, I was always like, I mean, maybe if I owned a yacht or I was a master of yachts, I would understand this watch, but I never did. And I never liked it. To me, it's well balanced, but it's sort of like with the functionality and stuff, it was fairly meaningless to me. Whereas I'm not a big fan of the modern Air Kings look, but at least I understand, like I know how to use it. So those are the big discontinuations. I'd say the only real shocker here is probably that they purged the entire Yachtmaster 2 collection all at once. But I've seen a lot of speculation that it wasn't a particularly strong seller. And now that we've seen so many prices come down on the less popular professional Rolex watches that people were only buying during the pandemic because they couldn't get the stuff they really, really wanted, it would make sense that they might look at this and go, all this time we spend building Yachtmaster 2s that are slow to move, we might as well invest these on regular Yachtmasters and building more Datejusts. So that's kind of where I think that all is. But what do you all think? Let me go ahead and try and get caught up with the chat with you all today. We may go longer than an hour, by the way. So that I spent 20 minutes on weird shirts and Rolex discontinuations. Don't feel bad about that. Oh, and Neff says he got, oh gosh, I took a drink and now my voice is even worse. Ordered the premium heathered in purple. Well, I forgot I had a purple option, but thank you very much. You're very confident that it will look good. I'm more skeptical, but I checked to make sure that the logo would be legible in the screen renders. So great. I'm sure it will be. Oh, on the wrist today is the Seamaster 300M because I have not been wearing this watch very much. It might have to go on the chopping block. We will have to see. I do like it on the wrist, other than the bracelet. Why couldn't they taper the bracelet? Because Omega got to Omega, folks. They got to Omega. Tuna writes, my friend is on a waiting list for an Oyster Perpetual. It will be a wonder if they actually allow him to spend his money. I think I said 10 months last night, but I think looking back, because I saved my watch clients. I got all these cards. I've saved my watch client card from the local authorized dealer. Yes. So I wrote down May 12th, 2022 is when I went in and asked to be on the Rolex No Date Submariner list. So we are now, as of yesterday, it has been 11 months for me waiting on that list. And I send a reminder usually every 3 to 4 months saying, hey, I am still interested in this reference. There are no changes in the Rolex Submariner line this year with Watches and Wonders, so I don't have to do anything there, but I've been thinking I may just need to go back in and kind of re-emphasize here in May if I still haven't heard anything. I've heard those are still around here, at least having a bit of a wait. Maybe I wouldn't be waiting still if I'd asked for a date version, but the no dates, they just don't get as many. So anyway, I am waiting as well, and it is annoying. I saw a whole video. I think it was Fratello did a whole, it might be one of their podcast episodes, but I saw it on YouTube, thing about, like waiting and how it builds up, excitement and enthusiasm. I'm like, no, I don't like waiting. If I have money, let me spend my money. This whole like queuing up for the privilege of blowing thousands of dollars on something is foreign to me, and it probably always will be foreign to me. Neff says, I think I'm done with Rolex unless I walk in and a palm dial Datejust is in the case. Well, I mean, at this point, you'd have to be very, very lucky because usually the way I've heard it, and I've not confirmed this, so I may be wrong, but like everything that we've seen here on this list, the palm Datejust, the Yachtmaster 2s, like Rolex, when they say they're discontinued, no more are being shipped. Like there's not like a final batch. So it's whatever people have still in inventory. And at least for a long while, as you've noted, they weren't in inventory. People really liked this one a lot. So you'll probably have to find it used if you really want it. Now, whether it eventually actually gets down so that it's no worse or maybe even cheaper than it was retail, that might happen if they made enough of them. I don't know. Tuna says, well, the way they treat their potential customers. I mean, to be fair, the the dealer, like our authorized dealer, which is Tivol here in Johnson County, Kansas. And when I didn't talk to the Rolex side, but when I went down and was at Book and Doors in Dallas, I mean, they were very, very, very polite. So, but the wait list is the wait list. But I did ask Tivol, like, are they expected a buying history? Because I just believe in being direct. And in there, they said no. Now, whether it was true or not, I don't know. They said no. They want you to live in the area was the primary thing, and that they go down an order on a list, but the list is long. So that's what they said. Koji says, never seen the Palm in person and still haven't seen last year's 1908 yet. I've not in person seen, I haven't seen either of them in person. Tuna says, not the Yachtmaster, surely. Well, I know for a fish, the Yachtmaster would probably mean a lot, but to those of us in a landlocked area, we don't see a lot of yachts around here. Neff says, waiting is absolutely stupid. My money should be good enough. Exactly. Money has no status. Money is money. And Koji says, it's like making a reservation for a reservation to eat at a restaurant. I guess that's what it's like, but it makes me like a sad panda still. Like a panda Daytona that you can't go in and buy at retail either. I'm hoping we get back to the place where it's basically the Daytona is the one thing you can't walk in and buy, but everything else you can. That's what I'm hoping we get back to. And Scott, welcome to the live stream. Scott says, agreed. However, many luxury or in-demand items aren't available without a weight of some kind, like automobiles. And you see, I don't come from any of those hobbies, so I wasn't familiar with that, but I've started to pick up on it quite a bit. Like the whole sneaker game with people who are buying the sneakers. And as you noted, autos. And needing to buy, and it's not even just Rolex. I mean, Audemars Piguet is perhaps, if they made more watches, they would perhaps be the most notorious about going in because they have the boutique thing. So it's all like super constrained through the boutiques. And they have this super game where it's like, you will buy this model first and this other model. And one of my favorite brands out of Richemont, Langenzonen. Sure, I mean, I like the dress stuff that they use as their gatekeeping. So that's good enough, all well and good for me. But like, if you want to get their fancy sports watch stuff, it's the same thing. You need to go and you need to start spending money on their dress watches. And then you flip, I guess they don't care. Flip them, get rid of them. They don't care if you take a loss, but you got to buy your way into all the sexy stuff that they show off every year at Watches and Wonders. So one of those interesting things. Scotty, welcome to the live stream. I'm watching the Masters, but Rolex ownership reminds me of attempting to be a member of an exclusive golf course. Yeah, the thing about it for me where I struggle is they make so many watches. Guys, like the high end, like the limited sneakers, the high end autos, they don't make 1.2 to 1.3 million a year. I mean, 1 million watches a year is a lot of watches every year. It's not like 1 million get destroyed in the same year. Every year, another 1 million. That they're able to have this happen with that much production is what shocks me. That you might need, I understand more you not being able to walk in and get an AP Royal Oak concept because they don't make many of them. That you can't just walk in and pick up a palm motif date just, I do not understand. That's the part where I struggle. So Tuna was looked at with disgust in Bristol. I'll remember that if I get back out to the UK. Bristol will be dead to me. I'll show them. I'll teach them a thing or two, Tuna. And Koji says, you have the dough. You can just walk in and buy a Steinway piano. I just don't get the whole, you need to buy I'm going to missay the name, a Kawa, before you're worthy of the Steinway nonsense that Rolex pulls. Yeah. If Rolex was more exclusive, I would understand. That's the thing. And I mean, full tip of the hat to Rolex to make so many mass-produced, so many watches, and to be so beloved. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like them too. I like how they wear. I like how robust they are. I like the designs. It's iconic, but they make a lot of watches. I mean, quantities you'd expect out of Seiko they make. So it's a lot. Okay. So now we're going to have some fun. We've ranted, we've raved. We had 54 participating brands, including Rolex, at Watches and Wonders. So I figured we'll have a conversation about some of the interesting stuff. Now, I already have the little tab up where I plugged all of these videos. Well, let me go to the regular ones. You know, I've done first reaction videos on these 8. And if any of you want to have a conversation about these on the live stream, we can do it and I'll load them up. We also had a conversation last night about some of the brands on the panel. We talked about Zenith, we talked about Rolex, we talked about Tudor, and we talked about Vacheron. So I'm not going to touch on those. Well, I'm going to touch on Vacheron, but I'm not going to talk about the pocket watch because that's the one we talked about. So I have a few preloaded here that I'm going to go ahead and put us into to start with. And then I figured we could go where the chat wants to go in terms of a conversation. So the first one I have links to the Watches and Wonders brand list in the video description if you want to load it. Also, I have links to, because, you know, Houdink's probably going to go out of business here pretty soon. So out of pity, I've loaded their Watches and Wonders page, mostly because they're pretty easy to filter by brand. So it's kind of a convenient way if you need to quickly look at the stats, because a lot of the stats won't show up on the built-in pages of Watches and Wonders. Also, we discussed this a little bit on the panel last night, but I'm really disappointed in the Watches and Wonders webpage this year. Last year, it felt like, at least for most of the brands I looked at, that every novelty had photos and stuff on the Watches and Wonders website. This time, they focus on one watch and then they just link you to the brand's website. Now, I like being able to go to the brand's website because sometimes they have a lot more photos and stuff. But when it comes to just browsing, you might as well have don't make me go I'll just show you an example. Zenith will be a case in point because we talked about several of their watches last night. So Zenith, you see, they're plugging the Defy Skyline chronograph, you know, the one most predictable watch. That's it. You have to click on the Discover More, and then it takes you to Zenith's website. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see, all right, well, they got the Skylines. And actually, this one, it took you to the, it only took you to the Skylines I see as I look at the thing. So they have their Defy Legendary Diver. That wasn't on Watches and Wonders, but it was a Watches and Wonders reveal. They have their Defy Extreme Diver. Zenith making a dive watch. Not on the Watches and Wonders page. But I think it's far more wondrous than the Defy Skyline was completely predictable. This was out of left field. So you see, they had 3 watches, but Watches and Wonders only focuses on one on the website. That is true for all of the Watches and Wonders reveals. So all of them only focus on one watch. So I've got some stuff loaded up. So let's see. Tuna does bring up about Brahm and Moussier. What did they exhibit? We will dive into. Actually, I'll load them up here. And hey, Siggy, yeah, the TV brand. Well, we distinguish it because we say Zenith instead of Zenith. But I did hear that at one point Zenith did distribute Zenith watches in the US for Zenith. So at one point they were kind of together, I guess. Baum and Mercier, I did not look at them at all yet, so I have no idea what they did. The new Riviera. And they may have other things, but okay, so let's see. This is steel case, sandblasted titanium bezel, 42 millimeters. So those are the basic specifications. Reasonably attractive, vaguely. I like that the shapes are different enough with the bolts and stuff that it doesn't look straight up like a Royal Oak. Oh, wow. Reasonably textured. This is almost like a quasi skeletonized. I'm seeing little parts of the movement here. I don't like these translucent things though, where you can see the date window all the way around. I don't mind it depends. I have a Parmigiani where you can see three of the days in a window side by side, and I've kind of grown to be okay with that. But being able to see the date windows behind the like a stained glass just does not really work for me. Overall, though, other than that, it looks nice, and it's got their kind of integrated strap thing going on here. Oh, not a very well decorated movement though. Hide that shame. I mean, it's better than Tudor, but still. All right, so there's Baum and Mercier. Neff says, nothing I've seen so far has really moved the needle for me except Chopard. Not the XPS though. The other one I can't remember the name of. Yes, we might explore the other one we can't remember the name of. But I've got a few that I wanted to throw out here just in terms of some first thoughts. Okay, so Vacheron overseas. Just wanted to point this one out. Actually, I have a number of overseas. I just thought it was interesting because good old Vacheron, you know, the bottom of the Holy Trinity. I like Vacheron, but let's be fair. I mean, they're just like they're third place of those three. Even though I think they do far more interesting things than Audemars Piguet, hiding behind their Royal Oaks. But we're like 2 years late to the party with a green dial, but it looks good. I mean, I bet this looks even better in person. Sunburst, which I love. I had a sunburst green Rolex Oyster Perpetual once, and it was a 34 millimeter though, so it wore a little small for me, so I let it go for a more sporty watch. But this is a 41 millimeter, so I might wear it a little too big, given it's an integrated sports watch style. But I thought, okay, they're late to the wow. This is a weird thing. There, we'll just zoom out. They're late to the party with it, but I think it looks good. I probably would like this actually more than blue. I think blue goes with less stuff. Like I wear a lot of grays and blues, and green can go with that stuff. And, so I just think it's a little more flexible with like my boring color choices on what I wear. But I think it works good with the rose gold style. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there as an interesting, quasi-interesting thing. Neff asked about why is Baumatic off center with nothing else to balance it? Oh, that's back on the Baume and Mercier. I don't know. And in fact, you've reminded me of something. They centered Geneva beneath it. There's a lot of white space here. This actually came up though, Neff, you've reminded me. This came up with when we were talking last night about Rolex, and someone in the chat pointed it out. It might have been one of you who was here about the 1908 and the balance there. So I'm going to see if I can get that loaded up here real quick. But it had to do with the placement of the name itself on the Rolex watch. Sorry, I didn't want to make you vomit with all my scrolling. So I was doing this. There we go. So let me see if I can get you closer here. All the white space between the pinion and the logo, if you can see this, versus all of us. The superlative chronometer is not very far away from the center of the dial, but the Rolex logo and their coronet are way up at the 12, and there's a lot of white space there that all of a sudden it's not balanced. And I hate this Explorer style font on this dial, but I've already whined about that. I didn't whine about that as much in my first thoughts, but the more I look at the 3, 6, and 9, the more I hate them. I don't mind them being on a dress watch. I don't like how it looks here. But overall, I thought this was a pretty competent watch, but the more I look at it with the spacing and stuff, the more I'm bothered by it. Let's see. Tuna asks, these days, does Audemars Piguet even do a dress watch? That depends on your interpretation of the 1159. I think they're trying to, the code 1159, I feel, is a blend of I think it's a sportification of a dress watch, or perhaps described another way, I think it's AP's attempt to try and do a modern version of a date just, metal. They're not all on metal bracelets and stuff, but it's got this weird blend going on. And I think they're trying to figure out their path on it. Siggy mentions the Masters collection. Koji says they discontinued the Edward Piguet and the Jules Audemars line many years ago. I look at those from time to time on Chrono 24. Siggy says, I'm a broke dweeb with an Apple Watch, but a vintage Goofy watch seems like a good place to start for me. Something Goofy Swatch seems to, a Swatch can be a good place to start. You could also, if you want something not Goofy, you could consider something out of Orient. Orient's catalog has a lot of, and they have a lot of stuff that kind of starts around $200. I have an Orient Cano, which I think is priced at around $180 to $210 or something like that. But you can find them gray, cheaper, or non-used. You can find them cheaper, less than retail. I shouldn't even say gray. They're not really at the gray market because it's Orient. But there's some good choices there. If you want something fun and playful, Swatch is good. Also, never. Especially if you don't want to scratch up your Apple Watch and stuff. If you do a lot of things outside or something you want to kind of fire and forget, definitely take a look at some of the G-Shocks. I know a lot of the stuff that gets talked about are the really fancy G-Shocks, but there actually are, most of the G-Shocks are very affordable, auto syncing, like with the atomic clock radio wave style. You don't have to buy the fancy Bluetooth ones. They can do everything you want, like stopwatch, alarm clock, all that stuff. So I'm a big fan of, I'm not a G-Shock collector, but I won't say that everyone should have. I don't believe in that, telling people that everyone needs to have at least some, like a whatever blank. I'm not one of those. So I'm not going to tell you everyone should have a G-Shock, but it's a good place to consider if you like digital and want something that didn't cost a lot of money that you can do stuff in. All right. Another one I wanted to bring up with you guys. This one, I didn't like how they had it on the Watches and Wonders site, so I've loaded the Hodinkee article. But so Oris, darling independent brand, they've turned out a few Oris Aquis dates. I've always had a fondness for the Aquis. In part, I really like the handset that they do on these. I just think it works really well for the dive watch aesthetic. And these are actually relatively affordable because only one of them has the option to come with the in-house movement. So if you've been getting put off a little bit by Oris moving more and more into their in-house calibers, they have dropped more watches that I think they're clearly articulating, unlike Tudor, which is moving away from using third-party Bosch movements, that Oris is still quite willing to stay the course and have third-party movement options, which are great for servicing costs and also keeping the initial watch price down. But these new Aquis dates, you can get them in 36.5 millimeters, 41.5 millimeters, or 43.5 millimeters. All of those have a base Sellita movement, except the 43.5 millimeter. You can either get that with the base Sellita movement, or you can get the Oris Caliber 400, which I mean is a nice movement. My Oris has a Caliber 400 movement in it, but it's just something to evaluate on pricing. So this is a 36.5. I think this is a 43.5. I don't know what the middle one is. It also look the same size. Yeah, these are both 43.5. So again, a really brilliant green. Oris does some really nice colors. The blues look really good too. And this was something of this upcycle look. They did that on a watch last year. I think it was a Pro Pilot that I think got a lot of positive attention. So those who wanted a dive watch instead of one of the Pro Pilots, Pro Pilot is what I have. It has very aggressive styling though. So I think it's somewhat polarizing, but lots and lots of choice and variety here. And in terms of pricing, it starts as low as 2,200 Swiss francs and it goes up to 3,750, which would be the full, like that's the best upcycle one would be 3,750. So again, around 2,200 Swiss francs, that's going to be what, like 2,400 US dollars starting. So pretty reasonable for entry-level luxury. For a respectable value. I mean, these are 200 meter water resistance watches. So, or no, I think they're 300 actually. I think I'm wrong. Yeah. 300 meters of water resistance. But there it is right there. So color match date windows. I mean, there's some brands that I swear will not bother color matching until you pass the $5,000 point. And some don't even bother then. So I thought this was one. I didn't want to do a standalone video because to me, it's hard for me visually to really tell the difference between some of the other Aquises and these new Aquises other than dial change ups. But I think Oris is a fun brand, so I wanted to talk about it. Let me get caught up in chat before I jump around some more. Right. Neff says he can't unsee that. He's talking about the 1908, which I'll put back up on the screen so that you definitely can't unsee it. 1908 is very Germanic to me, needs Romans. Koji talks about how he feels he's whined enough already. Koji's key rant against the 1908 is pinned on my First Thoughts video, so you can easily just scroll down and read it because he basically ripped it apart. So it's a good way to be, if you need someone to apply a critical lens to it, Koji, who is a big dress watch fan, has done that. So you can go and read that to your heart's content. It's not a long read, but it is one of the longest comments on any of my videos in the last 6 months. So I'll just note it like that. Siggy saying he's going to look into Orient. Great. I hope you find something that's interesting. And there are other nice, affordable, approachable brands. The nice thing with Orient is you get an in-house movement. Like Seiko owns Orient. They didn't start using the Seiko movements in the Orient watches. Orient still has their own movements that they do. So, and they're readily available. So again, if like you worry about servicing costs and stuff, a third-party watchmaker can work on an Orient. It's no problem. So Neff says he's wearing an Orient right now and he can't recommend them enough for the money. I should have worn my Orient today, but I think I've probably worn it more this year than I've worn this Omega. Matthew, welcome to the live stream. There is a vintage Goofy. Aren't you supposed to be moving a pinball? Or are you the one who told me you were moving pinballs today? Well, anyway, welcome to the live stream anyway. There's a vintage Goofy watch that runs backwards like the new Cartier. Cartier stealing all their content from a cartoon dog. To be fair, Matthew, My understanding is Cartier has done the reverse movement watch before. So now maybe the Goofy watch was before that one also. I don't know when the prior one was. I did not load that one up for conversation today, but we can talk about it if we want. Cartier did a number of new Santos watches, but they aren't what got most of the attention. Siggy says G-Shock does look kind of looks cool. It seems like my Techie Brothers style too. And they've got Ani-Digi watches, like Casio has Ani-Digi as well. If you want like analog hands with a digital display, they're not my style, but they're unique. So that might be if you like really more avant-garde stuff, might be something to consider. I probably shouldn't say avant-garde. They've been out for quite a while. Tuna says he has a few Orients. Koji says that you can't go wrong with the G-Shock. Neff says, I really wish Oris would use the LJP G100 instead of the Solita SW200 junker that's in my Aquas. Yeah, I don't know what they're just probably whatever's most affordable. I'm not familiar with the La Jouperet G100, so I couldn't say why it would be better or anything. That's beyond my scope of knowledge, Neff. But and that's what matters. Knowing is half the battle, or all the battle in this case. Scott says, I understand that the public wants a date window, but why can't more brands do two versions, one with and one without, like Rolex with the sub? I mean, they could. I think it's a question of sales. I think for Rolex, the issue is they're not going to have any problem selling enough of both. And as we often hear, or at least I often hear, the general public just buys date windows a lot more. And so, rather than worrying about two SKUs, and then are you going to use the same movement? If you're going to use the same movement at these price points, people are going to say there better not be a ghost position. Like micro brands can get away with that crap where I don't think they should necessarily, where you'll pull out the crown from position 0 to position 1, which is typically the date set for most movements, and nothing happens because now that doesn't have to be. They could still use the same movement. Stova, for example, my Flieger I got a no date version. They use the same movement in the date and the no date, and they make it so that it doesn't pull out into the ghost position. So it can be done and still using the same movement. But I think a lot of people either just skip it and leave the ghost position, or they decide they have to buy two stocks of movements. That's probably all that stuff. Or maybe it's none of that. Pinball got delayed. Okay, well, you're stuck with me then. Neff, providing more follow-up. The G100 is a drop-in replacement for the ETA 2824, and it's clone with a 4 hertz beat and 68-hour power reserve. Also, much better finished than any 2824 or clone from ETA, Solita, Sopard, and STP. Okay, well, I mean, the manufacturers, if they wanted to, they could add finishing to their 2824 if they wanted to. They just don't want to. So that is what it is. All right, let's jump around again. Another brand I've preloaded for us to have a brief conversation about. The classic moonphase date. Sorry, more date. But this is Frederique Constant. So this is the Watches and Wonders site. So I thought this seemed a little large for a watch that looks like this. It's 40 millimeters, so it's wearable. It's got the FC 716 movement, which is an in-house movement, and 72-hour power reserve. So that's pretty impressive. And automatic, which is nice for anything with a moon phase, in my opinion, but not particularly well finished movement, but interesting look to it nonetheless. But I thought this, again, another brand that's decided we needed to make a green watch, and they finally got it out, even though it's 2 years too late. But sunburst style, I think it looks pretty good. Classic. Not classic proportions, but I think it is a very safe dress style watch. Nice handset, moon phase right at that 6 o'clock position. You've got a center seconds here. This is not a small seconds. This is a pointer date, which they've also positioned around the moon phase at the 6 o'clock in the subdial. So the subdial is all about moon phasing and date telling. So I like this implementation of a date for a dress watch like this. It's subtle. So they decide you want to see the sweeping seconds hand. So they give you the central seconds instead of the small seconds, and then they do this very conservative approach to the date so that it's not obtrusive. a good choice. Don't know that works very well on sports watches, but I do think it works very well on dress watches. Neff says, nice looking Frederique Constant, should be smaller. Agree. Yeah, 40 millimeter for this is, and I, based off the case sizing, they definitely could get this a little smaller at least. The movement is occupying an okay amount of space inside of the case. It's not overly, it's not ridiculously small, but you know, the smaller you go with that, they might, without making adjustments to the movement, you do have to consider like what they would do. I'd say you could probably shrink the pointer date so it's not quite as big of a tract, and then you're not feeling it, because otherwise everything's going to move in more towards the or more towards the outside actually. So it should be okay actually. I think I was going the wrong way in my brain. Tuna says, I guess most non-watch folks would be more than happy with this Frederique Constant. That is an interesting way to say that you hate it. Dress watches, I don't know. Green on a green leather strap, that's a lot of green. I don't think it moves mountains here. I think that was just an interesting choice. Speaking of interesting, another brand that's done some interesting stuff is Parmigiani. They've definitely gone less avant-garde under the new CEO, who's been the CEO for a while now. But he's been just doing the Tonda PF, which has been great. Like, I love the Tonda PF. I love the aesthetic of the Tonda PF. And they have things other than the Tonda PF, but that's all they promote in a lot of things. I mean, I think I read an article, I don't remember where it was, if it was Hodinkee or Blog to Watch. Might have been a third-party one like Monochrome. But they talked about how, like, you go to the website and you just see the Tonda PF. You have to do some search feature stuff to get into the other collections to see, because they still make things other than that. But this is the Toric. So the Toric is back. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a Toric. I have a Toric loaded up. I've never liked it. And the reason is, here's one from Chrono 24, is this handset. I have always hated the way this hour and minute hand look. The only thing I can describe to it is, I think maybe it reminds me too much of the cathedral hand. And that's what's kind of pissing me off about it. But like everything else, interesting guilloche, nice Arabic numerals. It's got I always thought it was a little weird to do the Qualité Fleurier for the high quality movement. I always thought that branding was a little tacky, but the tri-display window, which is something that Parmigiani used to do a lot of, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with their old logo. The new logo, it's better. It's more modern. But that hour and minute handset, I have always hated on the Torics. So I've never looked at Torics. Now you see they've cleaned up the handset much more. It's not the Delta style, but cleaned up the handset, much more elegant, much more what we would consider a minimalist aesthetic that Parmigiani has been going with under the new CEO. So overall, I'm not sure. My biggest problem with this new version of the Toric, they look nice, but it also feels like it doesn't have much personality anymore. I think because of these are just markers instead of, there's no Arabic numerals. Now it's very basic. Like, I wonder, it's nice, yet I feel maybe they took away all of its personality that made it a Toric. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to mention it. Like, I kind of like the frosted look. It's so, I don't know why call it the Toric. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I would have been happy with I think a lot of people, like, comparing these two, are definitely going to like this new one better than this old one. Now, this probably was a miss for a lot of people. The guilloche may be too busy. The why so many Arabic hour markers, the weird handset is, and then of course this tri-display date window. A lot of people don't like that style. So here we go. Collectors rejoice because there's no date on it at all. But there's that. So I want to mention that, and then also, because we can't, every Watches and Wonders has to have a new Tonda PF. So I saw this release and I was like, I've seen this before. I was like, oh, okay. That's because this watch exists, but with a date. So they've gone no date today. So, hey, those, you concerned about seeing date windows, Parmigiani's got your back. So Tonda PF has been available with no date. but you've had to go down to 36 millimeters, which, given it's an integrated bracelet watch, and I've heard that this isn't Czapek. I've heard these wear pretty big, so I was okay with it. But now they've got it in the larger size, the regular size, the 40 millimeter, without a date. They've done this color with a date before, with this the Côte d'Orange or whatever they call it that they use here. I like this design a lot. I wanted to try one on, but the way when I was in Dallas, they do have a Parmigiani dealer, but I didn't route my path properly, and I'd been at hours looking at watches, so I didn't end up getting to go down and try one on. But this is a steel watch except for the bezel. The bezel is platinum. So you're aware. Time only, obviously. They have a few others that aren't time only, but that's why you'll see steel and platinum in the description of the case. These are also, I don't know the lug to lug, and that's what I'm curious about on these 40 millimeters. These are thin, though. These are less than 8 millimeters thick. So FYI, it's because it uses a micro rotor. Here's a shot of that. I don't think these aren't zoom in photos. Sorry. So it's what the website does, but that's the configuration of it. So I've always been really fond of this look. Problem is these watches are super expensive. Like I think this is around $23,000 Swiss francs, 23,500 Swiss francs. So more like 25,000 US new. They do Parmigiani's. The old Parmigianis take a big hit on the secondary market. That's part of the reason why I have one of them. These do take a hit. They're taking more of a hit now that we've moved past the pandemic, especially if you're willing to get the more time only or time date and not get stuff like the Rattrapante and things. So anyway, I like the aesthetic. I like this better than the Toric. The Toric is a very competent execution. It's just at 45,000 Swiss francs. I'd rather have a Calatrava. So I mean, that's the thing for me. Which, if you are curious, this is 8.8 millimeters thick. So it's about the same thickness as the Tonda PF sports watch. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about those because I thought that they were interesting and I hadn't talked about them yet. So catching up on chat. Tuna says, no, he doesn't hate Frederique Constant. Okay, I put too much judgment into your statements. Neff says that the Parmigiani Fleurier is a lot nicer than the 1908. Yes, I would agree. A lot better balanced. They've been at it a longer time. Koji says, unlike you, I'm okay with Bauhaus, but this Toric is too plain. Let me put it back up on the screen. It's too plain for me. I mean, I like this better than what I consider a true Bauhaus design. It's just, if we're going super plain like this, this configuration with these stubby indices and stuff just isn't, I don't know. It's just not, I'm just not feeling it. I think it's attractive, but I wouldn't want it. Maybe that's a good way I could phrase it. Like, I like looking at this, but it's not for me. Tuna thinks this Toric looks extremely nice. So you see, opinions vary. Neff says he thinks it'll look better in person or in video. Probably. I could not find any footage of this. Actually, and Hodinkee didn't even have an article on any of the Parmigiani stuff. So a blog to watch did, and one other site did, but I didn't find any videos. Or let me correct on that. I only looked for the Tonda PF on those articles, but Hodinkee doesn't have an article on anything on Parmigiani. Neff felt the photos are awful. Koji agrees. Koji saw the price tag. Parmigiani has very ambitious retail pricing given their place in the market. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Parmigiani makes an incredible watch, but they need to know their place. And their place in the order of things right now is they ain't no Patek and they ain't no Vacheron. This is super ambitious. Tuna noting he may need to save a bit. Neff feels the Toric is too large for him. What is the size on this? This is big too, actually. It's 40.6 millimeters. I look at this photo and I think it's going to be a 36 to 38, but it's not. It's over 40. Tuna says, at least they gave you a real alligator strap for the 45 grand. Well, yes, you gotta get your gator. Gotta get your gator on to have everything be right in the world. Okay. I only have a couple other ones that I picked up for us to have a conversation about. Czapek, I mentioned them earlier. They did release some new Antarctiques. I've been looking at Antarctiques now that they're going for less. It's a weird one because they often will do it feels like almost every Antarctique colorway is a limited edition. Now they do true limited, like they like to limit around 100, but they come out with like a bazillion colors. and they all look pretty good, to be fair. And I hear like whatever the size is on a Czapek, I haven't been able to try a Czapek on, but if you're into integrated sports watches, but you're tired of them, you know, because of the way the lugs work, that they wear big, like the Powermatic driven, the Tissot PRXs, those, they wear big. I had one, they wear big, bigger than they say. The Czapeks wear what their diameter says, or that's what people claim. This, I don't like, I want to talk about, but I don't like it. I don't like this version that they're highlighting here in this photo. I'm going to missay this. This is Czapek's Goutte d'Yeux. Goutte d'Yeux. So, weird asymmetrical swirly whirlpool pattern that I think is maybe causing an existential crisis. Interesting skeletonized handset. Now, why do I not like this watch? Here's why. I want to give them credit because they actually are doing something that isn't the Antarctic. So they get credit even though I don't like this. Why don't I like this? If you've ever heard me talk about Moser, half the Mosers I like and half I don't, and the half I don't like don't have markers. Where are the hour markers? I'll give up minute markers, absolutely, but I want hour markers at least, because this is too fun to be worn in any sort of functional sense without any, yeah, I know this is 10:10-ish, because we always take photos at 10. Oh, I don't, but a lot. I started too lately because I need to fit in. I'm feeling judged, but that one, but it doesn't really work for me. As cool as the dial is, and as cool as the movement is, but, and I love their movements. But again, I don't wear the watch with the movement side up. So they have very interesting movements, a very modern style look to them, versus the more romantic style most of the watch manufacturers use. But this with each of the individual finger bridges for the entire going train, very, very cool. Czapek makes a cool watch. Now, here's the thing. They aren't all that bad on the time telling. So I thought there was a photo here. Maybe I have to go to their, here we go. Probably have to do the discover more if I can't zoom it in properly. Yeah, we're going to. They actually have some that you can tell the time on. So, but of course we got to look at all the Antarctics. That's what they got to throw in our face. Yeah, I'll agree to your cookie madness. So where is I guess we got to go under collections, guys. Promenade. Take a walk on the promenade. Okay. So, sorry, I got quiet. Can we not? None of these photos blow up? What the heck, guys? There we go. That's a better zoom. So here we do have markings. Yeah, we have a minute track at the chapter ring. It's a little bit bolder than for each of the hour markers. I don't love it, but I can tell the time with it. They have a blue version like this as well. So this is a less interesting dial. I still think it's interesting how they've done this weird sunburst out of the 430 small seconds. But this one I can at least tell the time on, so I like it better than the one with the fanciest dial. But also priced a lot better than the Parmigianis are at 17,350 Swiss francs. But I'd rather have an Antarctic over one of these. But it's just one of those things. I thought it'd be interesting to point out just that they did something different. Neff noting that the dial is very interesting. Yes, especially the one that you can't tell any time on. Also not sure if he likes it. Yeah, I wouldn't wear this, but it's very swirly. So good job on the thumbs up for the swirlies. Violinist William, welcome to the live stream. Not a Czapek fan at all. Would rather have a Parmigiani or a Piaget. That's interesting. I actually, when I first saw, I'll throw them up here again. When I first saw the Antarctiques versus the Tonda PFs, I'd leaned towards the Parmigianis as well. That said, when it's like this style of texture, they're about on par for me. It's just, the Parmigiani is a more elegant design, as you can see. I mean, there's no Arabic hour markers. It's really clear indices, very well done. These are blockier. The thing is, they both have good movements, but one movement is elegant, the traditional elegant small rotor format. This is also a micro rotor. I said small rotor earlier, but they do the more modern design, kind of media blasted movement look. the thing is, I hear these, and that's why I wanted to try. I wish I could try them on. And at some point, maybe I just need to make myself find a place where I can. There was no Czapek dealer that I could find when I was in Dallas anyway to do a comparison. But I hear the Czapeks are more wearable, like more. Now, I know if I went down to like the 36 millimeter Parmigiani, I'm going to be okay. The thing is, I already have a dress watch Parmigiani as well, and I try and do a lot of brand diversity, so that's also a factor for me. But I've always leaned more towards the Tonda PF over the Antarctic with some of the design choices on the dial. But when it comes to like the overall wearability, plus there's a little bit more fun to be had with the Czapek Antarctic line. So it's one of those. Tuna says, interesting, but in the real world, yeah, in the real world, don't know about that weird promenade thing going on. All right, last one I wanted to bring up with all of you is a brand we almost never talk about. It's the new Masterlink out of Gerald Charles. All right, we talked about Vacheron and Frederique Constant being 2 years late to the green dial game. Well, here's Gerald Charles being like 8 years. I don't know. Don't count these fingers. Pretend AI did my fingers, and I have too many of them. Here's Gerald Charles doing an integrated sports watch 8 years too late to the game. So it's great movement. This is like a weird blend of sort of how Czapek would do a movement and Parmigiani would do a movement. Probably a little more on that Czapek side. But, okay. So the Gerald Charles case shape, I've always found interesting. I don't know if I would like it or not is the thing. I don't know. It looks like, I think what they executed here looks okay. Do people want this though? Are people like, yeah, it looks all right. I don't, I'm getting like Explorer vibes with the markings on the dial. It's got their weird shape, but instead of like leaning into it as a dress watch, now the shape is a sports watch. I just don't know. That's why I wanted to bring it up. What do you guys think? I'm not really feeling it. Price wise, this actually isn't as bad as I thought. Like I thought these guys were going to be. I thought Gerald Charles was going to be, I mean, it's an expensive brand, but I thought they were going to be coming in, being like Parmigiani, saying these are $45,000 watches or 25, excuse me, it's a steel version. So 25,000 would be what Parmigiani would price something like this at. But if we go and we look at it on their site, do they say what the price? Where's the price? Why are you guys always hiding the price from me? I swear I found the price somewhere. Well, that's why we have the, Hodinky plate thing up. Did they cover this watch? They don't have any staff left, so we don't know. All brands. No, of course they didn't. Guys, this is what happens when you lose all your staff. Gerald Charles. Search for the news. I should have. Sorry, I thought for sure the regular site was going to actually show it. Hype Beast. Hype Beast hype. Do you have the price, Hype Beast? Or are you just a Hype Beast? This dead air silence is killing me here. Nope. No price. A blog to watch. They'll have it. They'll have it if it's known. All right. Neff, you're the new blog. You're the blog to Neff. All right. So 21,100. So about 5,000 less Swiss francs than the equivalent Parmigiani. So, okay. It's weird. I just think it's weird that I get it. They're like, we got to do an integrated sports watch. And I feel like they thought it was going to be out 5 years ago. And then they got to roll it out now. So I don't think it does well for them. But I kind of get it because they're like, well, Gerald Genta, it's the Gerald Charles brand. He founded it. We're gonna lean in on this. And he was the integrated master. Remember the Nautilus. Remember the Royal Oak. Remember the weird thing. But I'm not sure. I bet in real life, it's probably, it looks quite wearable. It's probably quite nice. I think I'd probably just lean towards the shape without it being integrated. That's probably the end all be all of what I'm saying. Tuna asks, is this the Genta brand? Yeah, after he founded Gerald Genta and then let that, sold that to, where did that go? Bulgari. He founded Gerald Charles, which was the last brand he worked at. So yes, it is a Genta brand. And I think that's why they're doing integrated. They're really trying to pull that in. And you see even an old sketch, I'm assuming was his. This looks like his style. But Neff says, I like the bracelet on the Gerald Charles, but if I recall correctly, they are very expensive. Yeah, I mean, it's up there. It's as noted by Neff, we're talking a price point that's lower than a lot of other luxury integrated sports watches, but not by a lot. I mean, retail price on what the Nautilus is over 30,000. I think the Royal Oak is as well. I'm not positive on that. Parmigiani is more like 25. Czapek Antarctiques are around this same price point. So it's comfortably on the lower end of the high end luxury integrated bracelet craze look. So it's a lot, but not obscenely high compared to where it thinks its competition is. Like, that's a good way to put it, as Neff says. For 20K, it is not bad. I think it is fair. Okay, those were all of the brands that I just sort of picked out that we didn't talk about on last night's live stream and that I thought you guys might want a discussion on. But are there, I mean, I said we'd go over an hour today because I figured there'd be enough to do it. Were there other watches you guys wanted to talk about that I didn't hit on? I mean, I'm going to thin out some of these tabs. You can't see it right now. I'm closing like a bazillion tabs so the computer runs a little bit better. But I mean, we got this whole list here from Watches and Wonders, and there are a lot of these I haven't looked at yet. I do have a day job. I couldn't just sit all day and go through and explore everything. We could look at you'll hear me open another Coke. Oh yeah, that's right. See, this is where I was complaining about how Watches and Wonders only highlights one watch on their site this year for every brand, and I don't get it because no one cares about these animal watches. All right, if you care about the animal watch, I apologize for lying, but nobody cares about these animal watches. They care about the weird new to no S shaped case thing, but that wasn't what I was going to show you guys. I was going to. Oh, it's even hashtagging the jewelry watch. I hate Cartier's site. It's so graphic heavy. It's always awful. Oh, I could close that. Those are my old videos when we were talking about the housekeeping stuff at the start. All right, I gotta get out of this thing. It's too painful. I was gonna do the reverse time watch, but Neff has actually asked a question. So curious about what Van Cleef and Arpels. Am I saying that right? Is it Arpels? I don't know what they did, Neff. We're gonna find out together. Well, they did the Lady Arpels Jour Newt. Newt? My name's Newt, but you can call me Rebecca. All right, that was an Aliens reference. I know you all knew that, but I had to say it just in case you were like, why is he being so weird? All right. They've got, is this all their poetry of time? Let you see some of this video stuff. That's a very nice moon phase. Wow. Interesting case back. Okay, so it looks like that's the only thing they only had this one watch they were announcing, I guess, unless there's more down here. Lady Arpels Planetarium, the Planetarium. Okay, so ladies' watches. That's what they've done. I mean, they look nice. The dials look nice. Neff asks, can you do the Newt scream? No, I'm still struggling a little bit with my voice. So probably from doing all these videos this week. So no, I can't do I just use Newt, or they mostly come out at night, mostly. Neff says, I like it, but I was hoping there was a men's dress watch that I will never be able to afford. Well, I mean, they have some from the past years that you can always turn to. So, you know, take heart in that. And that comfort can lull you to sleep tonight. So I've looked at them on occasion. I think not very much though. Like I've looked more at like Arnold and Son, for example, and things that they sometimes do. But yeah, it's so overall, I've thought about doing like I'll have to look at more watches because I'd have to be fair to do more of a who won Watches and Wonders, who lost Watches and Wonders. This year, my overall takes, I might as well share while we're having this conversation, that the has been, oops, I've apparently turned on the Cartier sound on their site. So, because I'm still trying to find that watch while I'm chit chatting. Compared to last year, my feeling has been that it's not been as exciting of a watches and wonders, but I also haven't felt that the lows are as low as some of the lows last year. Now last year, I think the biggest thing was the. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. All right, here's this is the backwards time one. There, we get a little video of it, where it's. God, why can't I just have a photo, guys? Everything, continue the experience. It's a website. I don't want an experience. I just want to scroll. I'm gonna develop this newt screen here in a moment. God, never mind. I give up. This site is awful. Absolutely awful. Shame on you, Cartier. Karan says, what was new from Frank Mueller? You know, I were they there? Frank, where are you, Frank? They weren't at Watches and Wonders. Were they at Time to Watches? I didn't remember. Time to Watches is a companion. It's like an independent watch show that happens at the same time as Watches and Wonders. I usually do one video out of Time to Watches. I've not done that this year. I might later. Usually the only brand anyone cares about that's at Time to Watches, though, that I can remember is Zen. And other than that, it's usually really obscure stuff. So no, I didn't see anything out of Frank Mueller. In terms of, so I wasn't going to say in terms of win-loss. Like last year, 2023, the big loser was the Ingenieur out of IWC, I felt, because of the price. I think a lot of people liked the look, but the price was double what everyone expected. That was an integrated sports watch that stepped way outside of its lane. I'd say this year, IWC had one of the most impressive showings. I think their entire collection that they emphasized was really impressive. But and I have the standalone video, so I wasn't going to talk about it here, but the Portuguese or Eternal Calendar alone is a deeply fascinating watch. I also thought JLC did a lot of really nice things this year in the sense that they didn't emphasize the Reverso for once. I still think they need to get into the sports watch game. Like they need to revamp the Polaris. I've whined about that numerous times. But just seeing some round watches of theirs that were really nice calendars and stuff, I think that was pretty good. I didn't show you Chrono Swiss. I was disappointed. You know, I'm trying to make Chrono Swiss a thing, but with stuff like this, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I think it's limited to 100 pieces. So why are we even talking about it? Well, because we're at the end of there. I found if I click and make it, sometimes this website hangs, but I think it has to do with how the streaming software works. But I mean, it's got a very busy textured dial with a purple gear thingy for the hour minute hand and orange thingy for the power reserve and the bridge and I like the onion crown, which is like on all the Chrono Swisses. Other than that, I don't like this. Movement's okay. They probably lost watch. Look how thick this looks. They lost Watches and Wonders. Sorry, Chrono Swiss. You can't do this. This is weird. Go back to doing like the nice regulators. What is this? This is weird. Don't do this. Neff says, I would like Chrono Swiss more if their crowns were bigger. You know, that could be a direction they could go, but they have not. But anyway, I think I'll go ahead and close out this live stream here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, we've talked about a whole bunch of other watches. I had a panel of 4 other people plus myself last night. There's a link in the video description. We talk about one of the Cartiers, not the time backwards one, but one of the other, the dual time one, Santos's that came out. We talk a lot about Zenith. We spend a lot of time on Rolex there. Obviously, we spent time on the Rolex discontinuations here. And again, in the video description, if you want one, and it'll start popping up now, you can get Dead Girl in a Lawn Chair inspired shirts. Hey, if Audemars Piguet can do it, I can do it. So that's what we're gonna have. But anyway, that's gonna be it for this live stream. I do plan to be back next Saturday. We might do some more follow-up on Watches and Wonders. I mean, what else is there really going to be to talk about? We'll find out if there's other news. Maybe Swatch Group will try and steal some more thunder away as the stuff starts to settle. I think that's why they got their white Speedmaster out before Watches and Wonders. They try and do it preemptively. But Anyway, that's very nice of you. I'll warn people. I know Zach on the Pinball Show calls me Din Din. I don't go by Din Din, but people continue to use that on me. So I guess I'm kind of stuck with it. But yes, the hobbies are, the nice thing about pinball is you run out of space. You either run out of money or run out of space. The problem with watches is you'll never run out of space. You can live in a 1-bedroom studio apartment and buy every watch you ever would want. So it's a very, very dangerous hobby. But anyway, that'll be it for this week. I might have some more pre-recorded stuff over the next week. We will see, but I'll probably just rest. But anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. I'll talk to y'all on the next one.